Pause for a second, before your thumb swipes away. I need to ask you something that might just dismantle everything you believe about safety and success. Do you believe that being a good person is your shield against the world? That your kindness is a form of protection? That your honesty is a ticket to respect? If any part of you nodded yes, you are standing on the edge of a very dangerous lie, one that society has been feeding you your entire life. The most critical error we make is confusing moral virtue with personal security. But the raw, unfiltered truth is this: goodness, when wielded without thought, is a fire that doesn't warm you. It consumes everything you've built, your relationships, your career, your future, until nothing remains but ash. Niccolò Machiavelli, the master of political realism, saw this pattern unfold centuries ago. He watched benevolent leaders get devoured by their own courts. He saw compassionate rulers torn apart by those they trusted. He observed the generous being betrayed by the very hands they fed. Today, we're peeling back the layers of his most uncomfortable revelation, the hidden tax of unchecked virtue that no one warns you about. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore why your default kindness is secretly eroding your power, why people don't admire your generosity, they exploit it, and most critically, how you can transform this apparent weakness into an unshakable pillar of strength. But let's be crystal clear from the start. I am not advocating for cruelty or malice. I'm not suggesting you become the villain. What I am showing you is the art of strategic integrity, how to be genuinely good without being willfully naive. Because in a world where predators sharpen their claws daily, walking around as prey isn't noble, it's a death sentence. If you're ready to shift your perspective, I want you to comment one word: awakened. That's your first step. From this moment forward, you will stop using your virtues as a crutch and start deploying them as a strategy. In this video, we'll uncover why your moral compass doesn't guarantee safety, why it often attracts the very wolves you're trying to avoid, and exactly how to recalibrate it into a source of genuine influence. Number 1, the vulnerability of visibility. Think about the most selfless person you know. Now, ask yourself, do people genuinely respect them, or is that person simply the first name that comes to mind when someone needs a favor? The uncomfortable reality is that consistent kindness doesn't build a fortress around you. It erects a sign that reads "open for exploitation." When you are perpetually accommodating, you become predictable. You train people to understand that you won't push back. They learn that your no is merely a suggestion they can override. You become the colleague who absorbs everyone else's deadlines, the friend who always foots the bill, the relative who is eternally available for the inconvenient tasks. Let me paint you a picture. There was a manager, brilliant, supportive, the one who shielded his team from every criticism, who covered their mistakes, who sacrificed his own projects to elevate theirs. What was his reward? A promotion given to a less competent, more assertive peer. Why? Because in the calculus of leadership, niceness doesn't register as strength, it registers as subservience. People don't respect your goodwill, they map out its boundaries so they know how far they can push. Think about it. When someone is always free to help, their assistance becomes a commodity, not a gift. When you refuse to set limits, others will constantly test them. When you never show a spine, the world assumes you don't have one. Your virtue becomes a liability because it signals that you are a safe target. Kindness without boundaries is an invitation. Machiavelli argued that to navigate this treacherous landscape, one must embody both the lion's ferocity and the fox's cunning. The lion alone is trapped, the fox alone is devoured. You've been trying to survive by being the lamb in a field of wolves, and that's why you feel the constant sting of being taken for granted. Drop this affirmation in the comments: I guard my peace.
Number 2. The cycle of entitlement. Here's a psychological paradox that will twist your understanding of human nature. The more you give to someone, the less they value what you give. It sounds counterintuitive, but stay with me. Generosity in the short term buys you applause. People celebrate you. You feel the warmth of being needed. It's a powerful rush. But over time, a toxic inversion occurs. Your giving doesn't foster loyalty, it fosters a dangerous dependency. When you solve someone's problem once, they're thankful. Twice, they're grateful. 10 times, they no longer see your help as a gift, it becomes their baseline reality. Your extraordinary effort becomes their ordinary expectation. And the moment you stop, the moment your own well runs dry, they don't recall the 10 times you came through. They only remember the one time you didn't. Suddenly, you're the one who is selfish. You're the villain in a story you wrote with your own sacrifice. Consider the parent who gives their child every material desire. At first, the child is thrilled, but soon the new phone is just Tuesday. The car is just expected. And when the parent finally sets a boundary, saying no to an extravagant request, the child's resentment is fierce, aimed at the parent who gave them everything. This is the cycle of entitlement. You give until giving defines you, and the instant you need to receive or even simply stop, you are cast out. Your constant generosity doesn't purchase loyalty, it purchases an addiction. People become hooked on your output, and like any addict, they turn hostile when the supply is threatened. The psychological mechanism behind this is hedonic adaptation. We normalize pleasure. What was once a blessing becomes a given. Your repeated good deeds become invisible, part of the furniture. But your one refusal, that stands out like a scar. At work, if you're the one who always stays late, staying late is no longer a favor, it's your job description. Leave on time once, and you're suddenly not a team player. In relationships, if you always yield, yielding is expected. Assert yourself once, and you're labeled difficult. Machiavelli understood the power of scarcity. He suggested that benefits, to be truly appreciated, must be meted out slowly, like rare jewels. Flooding someone with favors dilutes their value. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I give with intent. Number 3, the performance of integrity. This next truth might unsettle you, but it's essential. Society doesn't judge your internal reality, it judges your external presentation. People don't care if you are good, they care if you appear to be good, at least when it suits them. This means that to maintain influence and respect, you must be conscious of the mask you wear, not to deceive, but to protect. Look at the individuals who command the most influence around you. Did they ascend by being universally agreeable? No. They ascended by being selective with their empathy, strategic with their timing. They project warmth in public and make the difficult calls in private. They offer mercy when it advances their goals and project strength when it's required to hold the line. They understand a simple principle. The perception of virtue often carries more weight than virtue itself, because perception is what the world actually interacts with. This isn't about becoming a fraud, it's about recognizing that your goodness is a tool that needs to be deployed at the right moment in the right context. Think of a surgeon. They must cut you open to heal you. Is that cruelty? No, it's a necessary procedure to save a life. True leadership often requires the same approach. Sometimes being genuinely good means looking bad in the short term. Sometimes it means saying no to someone you care about. Sometimes it means making an unpopular decision to protect the long-term health of a group or a mission. The mask of virtue isn't about faking your character, it's about timing your expressions of it. Most people make the critical error of showing their soft underbelly to enemies and their sharp edges to allies. The strategic mind does the opposite. Machiavelli famously noted that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. Your reality is shaped by perception. If people perceive you as a pushover, you are one, regardless of your inner strength. If they perceive you as a pillar of strength, you become one.
Drop this affirmation in the comments. I manage my image.
Number 4. The economics of self-preservation. Every action you take, every favor you grant, every yes you utter when you want to say no, all of it carries a cost. This is an immutable law. Your time, your energy, your mental bandwidth, these are finite resources. Most well-intentioned people ignore this accounting. They pour themselves out until the cup is empty, then wonder why they feel a bottomless pit of exhaustion and resentment. Here's what you must internalize. When you spend your resources on others, you have less for yourself. This isn't selfish to state, it's just math. Unlimited altruism is a path to burnout, and when you're burnt out, you can't help anyone, least of all yourself. Remember the airline safety briefings. They instruct you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Why? Because if you pass out trying to save someone else, you've doubled the problem. Life operates on the same principle. If you exhaust yourself serving others, you become the one who needs saving. You transition from being an asset to being a burden. The truly effective individuals understand that to be a force for good in the long run, they must guard their resources jealously. This doesn't make you unkind, it makes you sustainable. I've walked this path myself. For years, I was the one who said yes to every request, every call for help, every minor inconvenience that others wanted to avoid. I absorbed it. I thought I was being a good person, but the result wasn't joy, it was a creeping bitterness. My own projects languished, my own goals were perpetually delayed, and ironically, I became less capable of helping the people who truly mattered because I had nothing left to give. That's when the lesson crystallized. Saying yes to everyone is the same as saying no to your own potential. And when you abandon yourself, you eventually abandon everyone else by default. The most impactful philanthropists in history weren't the ones who gave a little to everyone. They were the ones who said no to almost everything so they could say a massive, life-altering yes to a few critical things. Machiavelli asserted that to command others, you must first be able to command yourself. You cannot lead if you cannot control your own schedule, your own energy, your own resources. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my reserves. Number 5, the art of strategic giving. I want to reiterate, I am not telling you to abandon mercy, honesty, or generosity. I am telling you that these qualities must be wielded like precision instruments, not scattered like confetti. A sword left in a display case protects no one, but a sword in the hand of a trained warrior, drawn at the decisive moment, can change the course of history. Your virtues should function the same way. When you offer help, it should be a deliberate act. When you show compassion, it should be a calculated choice. When you are generous, it should be aimed at creating a specific outcome. Let me offer a new model. Instead of giving a little bit of help to everyone, give a significant amount of help to the people who align with your values and your mission. Instead of being pleasant to everyone, be exceptionally kind to those who matter. Instead of defaulting to yes, reserve your yeses for the opportunities that genuinely move the needle. This shift accomplishes 3 things. First, your assistance becomes more valuable because it is not freely available. Second, you create a larger impact because your efforts are concentrated. Third, people respect you more because your attention and resources are clearly earned. Think of the leaders we admire. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't negotiate with injustice, he confronted it with unyielding force. Mother Teresa didn't try to save the entire world, she focused her efforts on the poorest of the poor. They were fundamentally good people, but they were strategically good. They used their virtue as a catalyst for change, not as a currency to purchase popularity.
How do you apply this in daily life? Before you say yes to a request, filter it through 3 questions. 1. Does this serve my core values and long-term goals? 2. Can I do this without depleting my essential reserves? 3. Will the person I'm helping genuinely appreciate and reciprocate this energy? If the answer to any of these is no, your response is not a weak sorry, but a firm, polite, I can't commit to that right now. And when you do say yes, commit fully. Give your best effort, make it count. This way, your yes carries weight. Your help is remembered. Your generosity builds a bridge, not a dependency. Machiavelli understood that the promises we make are tethered to the circumstances of the past, and sometimes the necessity of the present requires us to pivot. Being good to your family might mean being stern with a colleague. Being true to your own path means disappointing those who want to use your time for their own ends. Strategic virtue isn't about selfishness, it's about effectiveness. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose effective kindness.
Number 6. The fading echo of favor. This is a hard truth about human psychology that can reshape your expectations. Gratitude is not a permanent asset, it is a fleeting emotion. The favors you extend, the sacrifices you make, the help you provide, they all have a shelf life in the memory of those you assist. What begins as, I owe you everything, gradually morphs into, this is just how it is. You help a neighbor move, they're effusively thankful. 6 months later, you help them again. The thanks is still there, but less effusive. The 3rd time, they don't ask, they assume. And if you're busy that day, you're no longer the helpful neighbor, you're the one who let them down. This pattern is relentless. It repeats in friendships, in families, in the workplace. The person who is always available becomes the person everyone assumes will be available. The reliable fixer becomes the automatic solution. And when that person finally erects a boundary, they're treated like a traitor. The more consistently you provide, the less your provision is valued. The more accessible you are, the less special your presence becomes. The more you give without expectation, the more people assume your giving has no cost to you. This is the fading echo of favor. We believe that accumulating good deeds will build a reservoir of goodwill, but in reality, it often just raises the baseline of expectation. The people who appreciate you most are often the ones you help infrequently. The people who take you for granted are typically the ones you help the most. This doesn't mean people are fundamentally evil, it means they are fundamentally human with a psychology that adapts to its environment. Understanding this isn't a reason to stop being kind, it's a reason to be intentional. Set boundaries. Make your help a deliberate gift, not an automatic reflex. Let people experience the void your absence creates. Machiavelli observed that people are guided more by what they see in the present than by what they remember from the past. Your previous kindness fades into the background. Your current actions are what define you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I build lasting value. Number 7. Outcomes over intentions. The world operates on results, not on the purity of your motives. You can have the most beautiful soul, the most altruistic intentions, but if your actions don't produce tangible results, you are ineffective. History doesn't canonize people who meant well. It remembers those who accomplished things. I want to pose a stark question. Would you rather be known as a pleasant person who changed nothing, or as a determined force who, perhaps a bit rough around the edges, actually made the world better? Most people choose the first option because it feels safer. But here's the trap. Being remembered as just nice is often synonymous with being forgotten. There is a harsh reality. Sometimes genuine goodness requires actions that don't feel good in the moment. Surface-level pleasantness gives temporary comfort, but decisive action creates lasting impact. The parent who disciplines their child isn't being mean, they are being good by instilling discipline. The teacher who gives a failing grade isn't being cruel, they are preparing a student for reality. The leader who sets a high bar isn't being a tyrant, they are forging a resilient team.
True goodness is measured by results, not by feelings. It's about the positive change you create, not the transient warmth you provide. This is where many well-intentioned people go astray. They prioritize being liked over being effective. They choose temporary harmony over essential growth. They opt for peace in the moment over positive change in the future. If your goodness isn't getting you the outcomes you desire, you're not being good, you're being nice. There's a profound difference. Nice people avoid friction. Good people resolve the underlying issues. Nice people tell you what you want to hear. Good people tell you what you need to hear. Nice people preserve the status quo. Good people create meaningful change. The world has no shortage of nice people who leave no trace. What the world needs is good people who produce results. Machiavelli's controversial assertion that the ends justify the means is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean you should commit evil to achieve good. It means your pure intentions are irrelevant if they don't lead to good outcomes. You are not judged by the purity of your heart, you're judged by the consequences of your actions. So real goodness requires courage. It requires prioritizing the outcome over appearances. It requires you to stop asking, "Will they approve of me?" and start asking, "Will this actually make things better?" At the end of the day, no one will remember how you felt. They will remember what you built, what you changed, and what you left behind. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I focus on the outcome.
Number 8. Forging a legacy of strength. Let's talk about the final picture. How you will be remembered and what you will leave behind. History doesn't engrave plaques for the merely agreeable. It celebrates those who survived the storm, endured the hardship, and channeled their survival into something significant. Can you name 5 nice people from the last century? Probably not. But you can name 5 individuals who, through force of will and strategic action, shifted the culture, even if they were not always pleasant to deal with. Steve Jobs wasn't famous for his agreeability. He was famous for his uncompromising vision that revolutionized industries. I'm not suggesting you emulate his abrasiveness. I am suggesting that being remembered for making a difference is infinitely better than being forgotten for being compliant. Here's a crucial insight about legacy. You cannot leave a positive mark on the world if you are crushed before you have the chance. Survival in business, in relationships, in life requires more than moral purity. It requires intelligence, strategy, and the occasional demonstration of toughness. The kindest souls can't help anyone if they are obliterated by those who exploit their kindness. The most generous people can't give if they've given everything away to those who never gave back. The most honest voices are silenced if they don't also learn the strength to make their voices heard. You must survive first, then you can thrive, then you can create the legacy you desire. This means protecting yourself so you can protect others, building yourself up so you can lift others up, fortifying yourself so you can support the vulnerable. It's not selfishness, it's sustainability. It's not cruelty, it's prudence. It's not abandoning goodness, it's preserving it so it can have a real impact. Look at those who create lasting, positive change. They aren't doormats, they aren't people pleasers, they aren't afraid of confrontation, boundaries, or making difficult choices. They understand that goodness isn't about being weak, it's about being powerful enough to choose virtue on your own terms. Machiavelli's famous line about it being better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both isn't a call to tyranny. It's a recognition that respect, earned through competence and strength, is a more reliable foundation than affection, which can evaporate with a single disappointment. Impact matters more than popularity. Results matter more than fleeting feelings. You don't have to choose between being good and being strong. You can be and should be both.
But if you are forced to prioritize, choose strength first, because strength gives you the platform from which to be good effectively. Weakness, no matter how well-intentioned, just leaves you a victim. We've navigated a difficult landscape today, but let me crystallize the essential lesson. Goodness without strategy is a snare. It makes you a target for those who would drain you. It consumes your resources until you have nothing left to offer. It builds unsustainable expectations, and in the end, it sabotages the very positive impact you wanted to make. But goodness coupled with strategy becomes a formidable instrument. It becomes a tool for survival and influence. It becomes the architecture for a life and a legacy that truly matters. You now understand the hidden cost of blind virtue. You see how generosity can trap you, how gratitude fades, and why good intentions without results are hollow. More importantly, you now have a blueprint to convert your goodwill from a vulnerability into an asset, to be kind with intent, to help with impact, and to create outcomes that resonate. Before you leave this video, you must make a choice. Will you let your goodness weaken you, or will you master it? Are you going to continue with the old paradigm, giving without limit, absorbing the world's demands until you collapse? Or are you going to embrace a new way, being good strategically, effectively, and powerfully? So the real question, the one that will dictate your future, is this: will your virtue be your undoing, or will you master it and transform it into your greatest strength? The knowledge is now in your hands. The choice is yours alone.
If this perspective shifted something inside you, hit that like button to affirm your commitment to strategic strength. If you want more unflinching insights into the mechanics of power and human nature, subscribe to Mind Fortress and tap the notification bell. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who is always giving until they have nothing left, share this video with them. Your goodness isn't your weakness. When you learn to wield it with strategy and purpose, it becomes your ultimate advantage. Drop this final affirmation in the comments: I master strategic goodness. Remember, in a world of predators, you don't have to be prey. You can be the protector, not through blind sacrifice, but through wisdom, intention, and strength. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.